That concrete mixer better disappear by sunrise or I'm calling the authorities. Karen screamed it right into my face from maybe 3 feet away, her breath reeking of coffee and a kind of wild desperation you only see in people who've made community power their whole identity. I just stood there holding my laser measure, the morning air full of concrete dust, making her sneeze between threats, and my phone quietly blinked its red recording light from the tripod 20 feet back. She was waving a laminated HOA rulebook like it was a sacred text, and she was the high priest, but the only scripture I cared about was the county deed in my truck, which, just for the record, proved this lot sat 47 feet outside her HOA's jurisdiction. 15 years as a civil engineer had taught me to measure twice, document everything, and never underestimate someone desperate to feel important, which is why her meltdown caught in full HD was going to be perfect evidence for the harassment complaint I'd be filing first thing in the morning. The foundation stakes had only been in the ground 17 minutes when Karen materialized at my property line like a heat-seeking missile. I was running string between corner markers, double-checking the survey ID I'd paid for 3 weeks before laser-level beeping as I adjusted the grade, everything square, everything legal, everything on video. Karen was standing there, hugging that binder to her chest like body armor, watching me through designer sunglasses that probably cost more than my whole week's worth of concrete rental. The grass was still damp, sun just rising, but I could already feel the heat building in her stare. I'd been living next to her for 6 months now, 6 months of watching her patrol the neighborhood with a measuring tape and a clipboard handing out citations for garbage cans left out past 9 a.m. and lawn violations that only existed in her imagination. "You can't build that wall?" she finally snapped, voice cutting through the quiet like a saw blade. "It violates community aesthetic standards." I didn't even look up. "This lot isn't in your association, Karen. Check the county records." For a second, the binder trembled in her hands. She tried to smile, but it was one of those brittle, not quite smiling smiles that doesn't reach the eyes. "We'll see about that." She turned on her heel and stomped away, phone clutched in her fist, probably dialing up the county planning office before her front door even closed. I called after her. "Ask them to explain the difference between incorporated and unincorporated land. It's educational." She just disappeared inside, and I could see her pacing through her kitchen window, phone pressed to her ear, gesturing wildly at someone who definitely couldn't see her. Mrs. Henderson, my neighbor on the other side, raised her coffee cup in salute from her porch. The laser beeped again. Back to work. Tomorrow I'd be mixing concrete. Tomorrow Karen would learn that good fences make interesting neighbors. The first warning shot came the next morning, a sheet of bright white paper fluttering on my gatepost like a flag. I'd been up since 5:30 loading rebar into my truck, coffee in hand, running over the weather report one last time before the pour. The notice hadn't been there at dawn. I walked closer, noticing the crisp fold lines and the way the tape had been smoothed down with almost military precision. Maple Ridge Estates Homeowner Association, it declared in bold Arial, followed by Notice of Violation in letters that tried a little too hard to sound official. Section 4.7, Unauthorized Construction Activities. Immediate cessation required daily fines of $250 legal action and a signature that might have been hers, plus a seal that screamed Office Depot Aisle 3. I photographed it from 3 angles before peeling it off. The sticky residue annoyed me, another thing to clean up later. I kept an expanding file folder for stuff like this. Every permit, every survey stake, every Karen interaction. 15 years in civil engineering will do that to you. I scanned the notice into a PDF, then checked the real Maple Ridge Estates HOA website. 37 seconds. Their letterhead was Times New Roman, not Arial. Their case numbers looked totally different. The kicker. Their architectural review committee had disbanded in 2019, right there in the public meeting minutes. I was halfway through an email to the county code compliance office when Karen reappeared, this time flanked by 2 neighbors holding clipboards. She announced, The committee has reviewed your plans. We've identified serious compliance issues. The woman lived 3 houses down, always drove a white SUV with a coexist sticker. The man owned the corner lot, usually pressure washing his driveway. They didn't look happy to be there. Which committee members? I asked, all business. I'd like to speak with them directly. I pulled up the city permit app on my phone. These plans were approved by actual engineers last week. Karen, shuffling papers printed from her home computer, countered, the HOA review process supersedes municipal approval for aesthetic issues. I kept my tone even. Show me the roster. Names, qualifications, the whole 9 yards. The silence was thick. Finally, Karen huffed. The committee operates under confidentiality guidelines to protect against retaliation, but their decision is final. I spun my laptop around so they could see. According to your own website, the committee was dissolved 6 years ago. Unless you've got a Ouija board, I'm not sure who reviewed anything. That shook them. The woman with the SUV actually looked embarrassed. Karen, is this accurate? We can be outdated. Karen tried scrambling, but your construction violates standards and must stop. I told them I'll forward this conversation to county code compliance and include the fake violation notice. They're real interested in people pretending to be government. The man from the corner lot was looking at his shoes now, muttering, maybe we should let professionals handle this. Karen pulled out a laminated card, waved it like a badge. This gives me authority to act for the association. I took a photo. The lamination was crooked and the font was the same as the fake violation notice. Mind if I verify with the HOA board president? Her face went through a rainbow of panic. She mumbled, we'll be monitoring, then beat a hasty retreat, her 2 backup dancers trailing behind. I finished my complaint email and hit send. County Code replied in 20 minutes with a case number and advice to document further harassment. That night, I Googled the penalties for impersonating government officials. The concrete truck rolled up at 7:15 sharp, driver backing into place like a pro. Karen hovered at the property line, arms crossed, face set. The driver noticed. Everything good here, I nodded. We'll be done in 2 hours. I could feel Karen's stare burning holes in my back. The pour went smoothly until Karen marched right onto my property, 3 feet from wet concrete. I'm ordering you to stop this immediately, she snapped, stepping close enough that I could smell her perfume. You're trespassing, I said, not even turning around. The driver's eyes went wide, probably not his first rodeo. Ma'am, that's company property, he told her. We're liable if you damage it. Karen ignored him, poking at the concrete mixer, leaving fingerprints on chrome. She started photographing everything, acting like some kind of crime scene tech dust from her shoes drifting onto my fresh pour. You're contaminating the pour, I warned, still filming. The security camera on the utility pole blinked its red light, standard company protocol. Everything recorded. You can't use this footage against me, she shrieked. I was conducting official business. I just pointed out official business requires actual authority. This property is outside your jurisdiction. The driver finished up, advised me to keep unauthorized personnel away from the concrete. Karen stood on my lot, surrounded by cameras, no escape. This isn't over, she hissed, finally retreating to her own yard. I smiled, shut off my phone, and went inside. Over the next 2 days, my kitchen turned into a crime lab. Manila folders, plastic sleeves, every fake notice and forged seal, all organized and cross-referenced. Evidence logs, time-stamped video county maps, with my lot highlighted 47 feet of pure freedom. I uploaded everything to the county's portal. Every time the system replied, file received pending review, it felt like another brick in my wall. Karen, meanwhile, doubled down on social media. New Facebook group, Protect Maple Ridge Aesthetics. Administrator Karen. Cover photo, my job site. Post after post, accusing me of destroying our beautiful community. 23 members and counting. I screenshotted every word, every comment. Let her dig her own hole. The county zoning office called that violation notice is fraudulent. Please forward all evidence, including trespass and social media. When I mentioned video, the supervisor sounded delighted. We can proceed with a criminal inquiry. And just like that, the HOA board president finally emailed the individual you described has no authority. The architectural committee was disbanded in 2019. Any such documentation should be reported to law enforcement. I printed that and slid it into the ever-thickening official correspondence folder. Then came the twist. 3 men in matching navy polos, community enforcement, in gold letters, showed up in a white van with magnetic door signs. From the kitchen window, I watched them swagger around, pointing at my wall. Clipboard guy approached. "We're with Community Enforcement Services. We need to speak with you about unauthorized construction." He showed a laminated ID, looked official, but didn't mention any government agency. I asked for their contract, their legal authority, and started recording with my phone. That's when a neighbor across the street started live streaming the whole thing, viewer count climbing. I told the crowd, "These violation notices are fraudulent, issued by someone with no legal authority." The officers squirmed. They produced a stop work order, same fake font, no court signature. "Which judge signed this?" I asked. "If this isn't a real order, you're impersonating law enforcement." The 3 men looked nervous. "We're not police, just private contractors hired by the HOA. But then 2 of them stepped onto my property, measuring tape out, taking photos of my wall. I called 911. "I need to report impersonation of law enforcement. 3 men trespassing, issuing fake legal documents." The live stream viewer count hit 100 comments flying. The deputy showed up fast. I had my documentation ready, permits, county letters, the HOA email. The fake officers tried their story, but the deputy just shook his head. "So the organization that supposedly hired you says you don't work for them." He called for backup. The supervisor arrived, checked the IDs, and flatly declared, "Impersonating law enforcement is a felony. Issuing fraudulent documents, another felony. Trespassing while claiming false authority, that's a trifecta." One officer broke. "We were just paid to talk to this guy. We didn't know it was fake. The live stream caught every word." The deputies demanded names, contracts, phone numbers. The fake officers confessed and pointed right at Karen. 40 minutes before the HOA emergency meeting, the community center was packed. News crews, neighbors, everybody buzzing. I walked in with my box of evidence, police reports, emails, fake documents, videos, and sat right up front. The board president hands shaking open. The meeting actions taken by certain individuals were not authorized by this association. Someone yelled, "You mean the fake cops? We want to know how this happened." I stood up. "I have documentation showing exactly who organized this harassment. I played the videos, the fake violation notice, the trespass, the arrest, the confessions." The room went silent. The board president tried to stay diplomatic, but then deputies walked in, announced a warrant for Karen, listed the charges: impersonation, harassment, fraud, conspiracy. The suspect isn't present, but charges have been filed. The individual has been banned from all association positions. 6 weeks later, I was painting the wall 8 feet tall, pure white, 18 inches taller than Karen's SUV. Legal restitution, paid criminal pleas entered. The board had a new committee, actual professionals, this time new policies in place. Insurance companies asked to use my documentation as a training example. My case had become a textbook for handling HOA harassment and fraud. A young family moved in across the street. The dad waved, asked if I'd built the wall myself. I told him about permits, inspections, and doing things right. He just smiled and said, "Nice work. Looks like it'll last." As the sun set, I opened a beer on my porch, watched the wall catch the last light, and felt something like peace settle over the yard. The battle hadn't been won with anger, but with patience, paperwork, and a stubborn respect for real authority. Justice doesn't show up with fireworks. It builds slowly, one documented fact at a time, curing like concrete, stronger every day. The moving truck finally pulled away next door, street lights flickered on, and I thought about the new garden I'd plant along the base of that wall in the morning. Because good fences make good neighbors, but good gardens make great communities. Tell me, have you ever had to fight for your boundaries, literal or otherwise? Drop your story in the comments. Hit that like button if you believe in standing up for what's right, and let's keep building something real together.